Today we're going to start section 3.1. So when we're going through chapter 3, we're going to talk a little bit more about our distributions that we saw in the previous chapter. Where we're going to start is we're going to start talking about symmetric distributions, and then we will also end up talking about skewed distributions as well, and then make some comparisons between the two. So in the last chapter, we left the concepts of center and variability somewhat vague. So we talked about the idea of center and variability, but we didn't really define them with proper mathematical definitions. So now our goal is going to be in this chapter to actually quantify them, to measure them with numbers. So in this first section, we're going to look at our mean and our standard deviation. Again, the key thing is here that we are looking at symmetric distributions. Right? So remember, as we're going through section 3.1, we're looking at symmetric distributions. So the mean of a collection of data is the arithmetic average. So one word that we often see used in replace of mean is the word average. Right? If we were to average test scores, if we were to average maybe some homework scores, if we were to average a different set of data, we end up with what we're going to refer to as our mean. We can also think of our mean as the balancing point of our distribution. So we'll see that phrase show up in some of our questions as well as we're going through these. Right. So we're going to start by talking about visualizing our mean. So the mean for a symmetric distribution is roughly in the middle. However, the mean for a skewed distribution may appear off-center. Again, in this section, we are going to focus on our symmetric distributions. So we're going to look at kind of this part down, these two images here that we have in this first example, and think about what we mean by our mean. Right? So the figures below show two distributions, one with ACT scores and one with salary in millions of dollars. Which distribution appears to be symmetric? Approximately what value is the mean? Which distribution appeared to be skewed? Approximately what value is that mean? Right, so looking at these, our first image appears to be symmetric. Remember, symmetric means that if we fold it in half in the middle, we get roughly the same thing on both sides. Right, so our ACT scores here in this first image appear to be symmetric. Approximately what value is the mean? If we look at this, we have a little triangle here. Oftentimes we're going to see, if we're given a mean in our histogram or dot plot, whatever we're looking at, we are going to be given it in some sort of shape or indication here. So looking at this, our mean appears to be somewhere between 24 and 25, because that's where that little arrow is pointing, right? And it is roughly in the middle of our data set. Then for our B, which distribution appears to be skewed? Approximately what value is the mean? So looking at this, we have a tail going down over here, right? So remember, that means that we have a skewed distribution. So in this case, it is our salary image. Right? Our mean, looking at this, this little arrow is close to 3. So we're going to say it is close to 3 million. And if we look at this, notice that this value is off-center. Right? It is more right, on the left side of our graph. Right? We have a tail on the right. All right, so when we're thinking about our mean, again, we're thinking about what is our center value. It depends on the shape of our distribution, whether or not it is skewed or whether or not it is symmetric. Right? The mean in context. So while we're thinking about these pictures and what we're looking at when we're looking at our mean, remember, the mean of a collection of data is located at our balancing point. Right? So one word that we're going to see, or phrase that we've already seen listed above, and we're also going to see as we continue to go through this chapter, when we're looking at our mean, we're going to see the word balancing point quite a bit, and then we're also going to see typical value of a variable. Right? So those are two different things that we want to think about it and that we want to consider when we are thinking about our mean. Right? So far we've defined our mean. We've talked about how we can visualize it or see it in images and what it means in context. In the next example, then we are going to look at calculating our mean.